There was another development that I got 2 emails about yesterday, and it has to do with the California Pacific Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. I've done some commentary on them before. I did one with the Hotel California theme, where you can come anytime you like, but you can never leave. They had an annual conference where Bishop Dottie Escobedo Frank heard speeches from Glenn Hayworth and a very earnest Korean lady pastor. And they were both just begging, hey, the way to disaffiliate here is way too expensive. It is not at all equitable. You need to create a path out for us, And it was like you had to pay the full property value of the building, I think, with property values being just through the roof in this region of California. So a ton of Korean congregations couldn't get loose. Other maybe evangelically minded churches couldn't get loose. I interviewed David Householder, who is pastor of the Fountain Church, which operates within a United Methodist building that the conference has been trying to take through hostile takeover, even though they're growing, even though they're an increasingly vital church. It was in Huntington Beach, wasn't it? Yeah, I should have looked at some of these before I started this. But anyway, there's been a court case where actually the developments have been kind of good. So here is something that I got yesterday. Case not dismissed. The judge in our case against the California Pacific Annual Conference has ruled against the conference and has moved for dismissal of the case. This means that there is merit in our case and the judge believes it should go to trial. This is a win for the Fount and the 8 other churches in Cal-Pac that have joined together to sue the conference. What this means is that the first hurdle has been cleared. The conference attorneys will most certainly make other motions that will have to be ruled on. But this was the big one, and in most cases it means that the trial will go forward. It means that there is now a better chance of winning our case and getting free from the UMC. So that last bit just has to do with people. And then this is the actual document that was sent me from the court. And I don't have a website for this. I'll see if I can find a URL for this and put it in the show notes when I post it later. But it says the moving party is defendants in California Pacific Annual Conference of the UMC, and then it's against Dottie Escobedo Frank, their bishop, and the board of trustees of the conference. And then I don't know what Qumran is. Plaintiffs are Qumran, UMC, et al. Okay, so these are the ones that are being filed against. These are the ones that are filing against them. Qumran, that must be a Korean church, surely. So it was filed on April 11th of this year, and then there was an opposition filed on June 12th, and then a reply on June 20th. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it answers each of several charges, and then the long and short of it is, if you don't like wading into these waters, is the annual conference was trying to have the case thrown out, saying, I assume they argued the same thing as most conferences, which is, this is an ecclesiastical issue, y'all don't have any bearing here, you need to just butt out. And a lot of states have agreed with that argument. So when it says relief requested, what does that mean? It says defendants in the California Pacific Annual Conference of the UMC, Dottie Escobedo Frank and Board of Trustees of the conference request the demurrer to the complaint be sustained without leave to amend. So they just, I think what that's saying is they wanted the whole case to be dismissed. They wanted relief from the state against this lawsuit that they don't agree needs to happen. So here's the background. On February 2nd of this year, plaintiffs Qumran UMC et al., or the plaintiffs, filed a complaint against the defendants of the California Pacific Annual Conference of the UMC. The complaint asserts 7 causes of action. Here are the 7 causes: declaratory relief, judicial modification, termination, or reformation of trust, breach of fiduciary duty, unjust enrichment, promissory estoppel. I do not know what that is. Here, let's see if I can get a quick definition on estoppel. No? Oh, it's not even registering. That's a word. Okay. Breach of contract and breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. So on April 11, 2024, defendants filed the instant demurrer to the complaint. On June 12th, plaintiffs filed an opposition. On June 20th, UMC defendants filed a reply. So defendants, plaintiffs, defendants. So we've had some back and forth. Here's the tentative ruling. Defendants' demurrer to complaint is overruled. So they're refusing to dismiss it. Defendants are ordered to file their answer within 30 days of this order. So the next section is request for judicial notice. United Methodist defendants' request for judicial notice is granted pursuant to evidence code sections. And then their request for judicial notice is also granted on the same basis. And I'm not going to pretend to know the specifics of what that means. So it has several more pages where it does legal analysis and explains why they ruled the way that they did. And I haven't had time to look at this, but the long and short of it is it's almost certainly going to trial, which is, I didn't predict that in California. California is a left-leaning, most left-leaning states in deciding these cases decide in favor of the denominational body. Most right-leaning states like Texas have generally made statements in favor of the local church. This is just something that legal experts have told me for the last couple of years while I've been covering these cases. Rio, Texas, decisions have been made in favor of the local church. That's what we've seen recently. Here in California, it was expected that the state would be hostile to the local churches trying to get out. So it's surprising that they're actually deciding that there is grounds for such a case to be had in California. California Pacific Annual Conference has had a policy, well, we found it in original documentation called the Phoenix Fund, where the plan was as the conference continues to decline in income and in membership, that they will then liquidate assets in order to stay afloat. And so if you haven't seen my interview with David Householder, he describes what this is looking like in the context over there. But this is what's at play right now. Is there are a number of churches. Well, in my old annual conference, I covered a church in Oregon that leaned left. It was a Reconciling Ministries church, but it's being closed so that they can sell the property. And so this is what's going to be happening in a lot of these progressive leftist annual conferences. As they need money, they've got all these churches that they've been entrusted with that they're planning on liquidating in order to stay afloat. So right now, they've just been targeting right-leaning churches to sell their properties. But over time, what we're going to see is that they just target whoever they can in order to stay afloat. So this is a legal effort to ruin those plans. Otherwise, you're going to find this self-cannibalizing entity of the United Methodist Church just slowly eating away on its own limbs in order to stay alive, which is gross. So anyway, it sounds like it's worth praying about this. There are a lot of good folks out there that are trapped, and of course, we don't want anyone to be trapped. And of course, we're embarrassed for the United Methodist Church that thinks it's a legitimate way for Christians to act when they coercively constrain people against their will. So we'll pray for them here in a little bit.